Welcome
Camera
to Linux
control.
Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we'll have a talk about a Linux project, such as a Linux distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession to the open source project. And with me today I have Aris, Jinda, and Penguin Revolution. How is everybody?
Great.
Excellent.
Well, great. Apparently, everyone else got caught in the snow, so I apologize for that. It's pretty snowy right now. At least here in Michigan it is, so I'm just going to say that it was Michigan that did it. So be sure to do the straw poll. There should be a link in the chat if you have not yet done the straw poll. It is about the number of chat services you use. I think I'm saying it right. That's how I remembered it anyway. If you can knock out that straw poll, that'd be great. So coming up, we have our, we'll go over that straw poll. We'll do our open mic night, check what's on the menu for next week, and do a last call. But first, what have you been doing in tech or Linux? Aris, you have been working on something I think is quite interesting.
So I know that some like public places like restaurants, maybe like a hotel, they have like a QR code so that you can use their Wi-Fi. And I wanted to do that to my own guest Wi-Fi because I'm just like I gotta give people the password and I don't want to make it too short, but then I want to make it long. But then I end up doing it myself anyways. Okay. So maybe I thought maybe I could create my own QR code. And along the way, I found also that DuckDuckGo, if you go there and put QR, just the letter C, Q, and then R space, and then a website, it creates a QR code for you. So that's just an interesting thing I found along the way. In case you want to make a address as a QR code for whatever reason you want to do.
Okay.
But I tried doing FlatHub, some of the apps there, and they do have the ability to make a Wi-Fi QR code, but I think my password was too big because when I tried putting in the password and create the QR code, it got cut off or something. I think it might also be because I use like I think a character that doesn't like it, so it wasn't working. So then I decided maybe I should do something with a CLI, and I found a program called let me see, it's called QREN code, QREN code, I guess. And I think it's available in many repos. This is it's a simple command line interface program.
Okay.
And I also found out this website, and it gives you like how to do the command. I'll put it in the chat for how to set it up. And it's pretty straightforward. There is a problem if you use, I think, some of the special character. They do tell you how to it does show you in the comments, somebody said, I think, how to escape it, escape a character. If you just use letters and numbers, it wouldn't be a problem. And it creates a simple QR code that I guess anybody could use. It does vary a lot on your operating system, I think, depending on what version of Android you have or iOS. It might just copy over the password to the clipboard, and then you can just paste it in yourself to the appropriate AP through your own phone or whatever.
Okay.
Or it could do everything magically. You just scan it and then connects you right away.
That's pretty wild. So how reliable have you noticed it working so far with like different Android or even iOS devices if you've tried those?
On one of my phones, like I said, it didn't. I think it told me that I was trying to connect to Wi-Fi. It turned on the Wi-Fi, but it wouldn't paste it in itself. But it did paste. It did copy it to the clipboard, so I could just select the right AP and then paste it myself, and I was done. So not too hard. I mean, it could be simpler. And I think in a different phone, it did everything automatically. It just connected everything, and
Do you run KDE?
yeah.
What version of
I,
KDE are you running?
Whatever's in Ubuntu default, I think, the LTS. I think I did try doing it with KDE, and it wouldn't work either.
Oh, okay.
I think it might be one of those characters that I need to escape. And
Right.
I did escape it, so maybe that's why it wasn't working correctly.
I gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I wonder if do you know what character it is that you're using that might be causing that? If you're willing to share, like which character you think might be problematic,
But that's gonna compromise my security.
then don't
No,
share it.
no, it's actually I think it's a colon. I think colons, if you add a colon to your password, that's a it doesn't like it. Or a semicolon. Colon or a semicolon, something like that. So you have to escape it. You gotta put a additional different character in before it to make sure that it doesn't mess up with the command line. And I did try the KDE way, because if you go to if you like Nate was saying, if you go to your networks and the system tray and right click on one of the APs, it does give you an option to show the QR code.
Mhm.
And it sometimes does work, but I think if it has a special character, it might not work.
Yeah, I've never actually used it. I just knew it was there. So yeah, it produces a really big QR code on the screen.
Yeah,
So
it's gigantic.
yeah.
So what you could do, I don't know if there's a simpler way, but you could just set up your like a screenshot app to take a screenshot in 5 seconds,
Hmm.
pop that in, make it so it goes full screen, and just cut it off afterwards to an appropriate size.
Yeah, that might be. That seems kind of clunky. I like using that QR encode or ren code.
Yeah.
I don't. Or the website probably having to set up a screenshot thing to like take a picture at a certain time does seem a little bit clunky.
It's clunky. I think the use case is you're trying to connect some kind of a mobile device
Right.
to the Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
So you put the QR code on your computer and you just hold up the phone or whatever.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I don't think it's designed for you to save the QR code in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the case. So yeah, that's very cool. It's neat that you explored that. There was some probably a decade ago or so was probably the last time I really explored it for making things easier for people to navigate to a website. Like when QR codes were all the rage. Remember that? People put them everywhere.
They got big during the pandemic because of menus.
Hmm.
People thought that it was more hygienic for you to scan some QR code with your own phone and look at them the menu that way, instead of them handing you a menu and then having to clean the menu. Sometimes the menus aren't laminated, so
Hmm.
they would be dirty, I guess, in some ways because of germs.
Yeah, that's probably I'm except for the fact that phones are typically one of the dirtiest things around, like in general, unless if you're one of those weirdos that clean their phone all the time with Lysol, like me. People's phones are typically the dirtiest things because people take them into the bathroom with them. They take them everywhere. They don't necessarily clean their phones. So,
You are correct.
so
Everybody uses their phone everywhere.
right. I yeah. So it used to be magazines in the bathroom. Now it's cell phones. Not sure what's better 'cause when you think about it. You think about all the mechanics. Maybe phones are better. I don't know. So do you keep this QR code like in your kitchen or whatever, like in a little binder or something? So when you have guests come over and they say, "Hey, can I use your Wi-Fi?" and then show them that or whatever.
Yeah, I just keep it in the living room.
Oh, okay.
I haven't finished it, so I'm gonna put a QR code, like a simple one that just takes me to say a DuckDuckGo, just to test out that their phone won't take it. And if it works, then I'll have the other QR code so it does everything. But if it doesn't work, I'm gonna have the password typed out in a piece of paper. That way, there's fail-proof fallback in case it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a neat idea. I, I'd be interested in seeing like if you do end up like implementing this and like using it when you have guests come over. I'd be interested in hearing how it worked out like with your different test subjects. Not to say your guests are test subjects, but should you decide to test things on them that you would have, whatever. You see how well it works.
Yeah, there's a lot of use of QR codes, I think, for like discounts.
Hmm.
Sometimes if you buy something, there's like a QR code. You go there and like you sign up for something, or you do like a survey with a QR code. So I think they're becoming very mainstream now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they have been over time. Even my podunk town I live in, they have QR codes in different spots, like outside in like the the downtown walking area. Like, hey, find out something about this. It's neat, I guess, as Adam would say. Speaking of neat, Eric's here. I don't know if he's fully here, but he's partially here. Assuming Zoom hasn't already beat him up and kicked him out already.
No, it's past 8 o'clock enough. It usually doesn't do it now.
Yeah.
I thought 8 o'clock is when it started beating him up. Like it's fine.
Yeah, I thought it was
until 8
earlier
o'clock.
though.
Oh.
Yeah, but we're on daylight savings time, so they might have actually changed that.
Right. So actually, it's earlier now. So maybe it won't kick in and get really weird until 9 p.m. then. Eastern. Well, regardless, if you haven't done that straw poll yet, it's in the chat. Go ahead and knock out that straw poll. Today's topic, this Eighth Doctor, it's an open mic night. So I have a list of topics, and we're going to start it off essentially with the straw poll topic of how many different chat services that you use. Aris put together another fantastic poll, and so take it away, Aris.
So I know there's been like a explosion of chatting apps, and everybody is like it's almost like a struggle sometimes, because sometimes people only use a certain app for you to talk to them, or there's always the fallback of SMS. So I just thought it would be interesting to see how much on average people have to use, how many protocols, messaging apps they have to use. And I think I put in the poll that I counted SMS as a way. So how many messaging apps, protocols do you use? This includes IRC, SMS, Telegram, Signal, Discord, Tulip, Matrix, and more. Even though some services are social media, if you direct message people frequently, I will count those too. Because I guess you could use like Mastodon to talk to people directly all the time with it. So I think the votes are settled. So in number one with 27% came 5. And second position with 21% said 3. 21% said 4. And 9% said 6. 6% said 2. 3% said none, which I find questionable. I put that just because I know somebody was going to complain about that, but we really don't use any message service, not even SMS. I mean, you have to use for something for somebody, I guess. And 3% is 1. 3% again is 7. 3% is more than 10. And I missed that. Oh, and I missed Tux Penguin, I think. Tux Penguin got 6%.
I actively used over 10. So I was that person. Yeah. And Neil is here. Mark also walked in quietly through the doors. I could hear him swinging though as he passed through.
Yes, I did. Hello.
It's good to have you. Yeah, I was actually just counting. I can hear you. You're a little bit on the quiet side, but nonetheless, you are hearable.
Well, I don't use nearly as much as I used to, so probably the audio levels are all wrong again.
That could be. Zoom does what Zoom does.
Yeah. So with the straw poll, I actually put 5 because I didn't think about SMS, Mastodon, or any of the other things. Because if I thought about all Twitter, Mastodon, SMS, and a couple of other things, I think I'd be at like 14. Which would be utterly insane. So I'm not going to go with that, and I'm going to go with my original one of 5. Because
just because you don't want to think about the other ones?
Yeah.
I don't want to think about the other ones. And also the other ones are just not, they're not to the daily frequency, right? So the way I interpreted chat is something that is essentially semi-synchronous. And I look at all these other things as essentially completely asynchronous. And if they're completely asynchronous, I don't really think of them as chat platforms. They're certainly communication platforms, because then you could, if I include those, then I can also make the argument that I also use email as a bloody chat platform. And I don't think anyone would make a reasonable argument that email is a chat platform. So yeah, no. So like for I have been happily consolidating most of my personal and open source communications down into Matrix.
Okay.
And as a consequence of how Matrix works, I have also basically folded IRC into Matrix. So I don't consider them distinctly separate. So that's one. If we want to break it out, then yes, I do have IRC as well, and that would be 2, but I'm not breaking it out because I interface through it through Matrix. And then the other one that I somewhat use, just occasionally, although I'm increasingly like not doing that these days, is Telegram. I exist is what I should say there. But like my usage of it is increasingly dropping to 0.
Any particular
because
reason?
They've been moving to Matrix.
Oh, okay.
And so I used to also be active on Discord. I'm not really anymore because Nitro scams and then getting my Discord account locked a couple of times and all that other stuff is just like, Discord is not a fun platform for me to have to deal with, so I just don't. But it is there.
What are Nitro scams?
So
they try
yeah,
and scam you out of your Nitro that you've bought, practically.
or they try to scam you out of your credit card information or your account information or something else because the way that Discord works, you can do any authentication and authorization through a QR code scan. And the QR code scan doesn't have a verification prompt. It just automatically activates.
That's similar to the way that MetaMask scams used to work until they disabled that dang QR code. They had to disable that because too many people were sending their verification and their codes over that QR code and scanning it in.
Right. So I don't generally exist on Discord anymore because of that.
Gotcha.
Now there are a couple of events that like use Discord as a medium, and then there's a couple of people, and those for those events and those people, occasionally I will show up there, but I don't Discord anymore because of that. I actually had to open up Discord to go find the URL for this because I'm not in it most of the time. And then next up is Slack and Google Chat, which I have to use for work. And so I'm in both of those. I used to have to deal with Teams, and I am so happy that is not a thing I have to think about anymore. Microsoft Teams can burn. It is a horrible platform. With so many anti-patterns. And the news that I just saw come out of Microsoft this week about Microsoft Teams, where they've enhanced it with GPT-4 as Microsoft Copilot for Teams. I don't wanna. So, context, earlier this week, Microsoft and Google announced their own machine learning AI assisted add-ons to their platforms. Microsoft 365 has Microsoft Copilot. Google Workspace has some unbranded name thing. I forget what it's called. But they're both generative AI solutions. And they're used for assisting you to go through all the things. Microsoft's Copilot goes quite a bit further and will do things like take a small set of words and transform it into large, fully formulated blurbs and things like that. Or if you are not around in Teams chat, it can respond for you. And it can use your stuff to respond on your behalf.
I don't know that I would like that.
Yeah, right?
It's not like identity theft, almost.
It feels bad. It feels real bad. Though there is a cooler aspect of it that I actually think other platforms should take note of. For Teams video calls, if you're late to a Teams video call meeting, it will make notes for you and give it to you so that you will be caught up.
That's actually handy. I can get on board with that.
Yeah, that part I can get on board. Teams video calls suck for every other reason. Like they have terrible video quality. They are miserable for performance, and they don't
Mhm.
do hardware acceleration properly on non-Windows and all that other stuff. But if you can give me meeting notes for when I'm late to a meeting so that I can actually like be caught up,
Mhm.
that's a real win right there. Because
Mhm.
then you don't have to waste time asking people what the heck happened so far.
Wish they had that a
there's
couple years ago.
Yeah, no
Mhm.
kidding. But they're also plugging this into Word and
Okay.
PowerPoint and Excel to do things like put raw data sets, ask it a question, it will process the data, summarize it, show its work, and tell you how it literally will analyze and give you natural language output
Mhm.
of what that data meant. That's Excel. PowerPoint can generate whole decks for you based on a prompt. And a Word will just write things, lots of things. They have a lot of videos up on their talking about this. They've got some blog post announcements, the whole works. On the balance of things, it freaks me out, but it could be interesting and somewhat compelling. Not compelling enough to make me use Teams again, but
Mhm.
it is very interesting to see how that's happening. And I suspect Google Workspace is going to do the same thing. They're going to pump up using their generative AI technology into all the aspects of Workspace, including chat and whatever. Actually, Google Chat already does the whole summary thing. If you join into a channel and you see all these threads, they'll summarize threads for you, so you like don't have to read all the messages, which is super useful.
That is.
I would
handy.
actually like to. I would like to see stuff like that in Google Meet, because jumping into meetings,
Mhm.
especially if you're like double or triple booked and you have to swap in to different meetings, right? Being able to catch summaries, or maybe it generate a summary of the meeting as part of like ending it and processing a recording. Stuff like that would be super handy for even people who are like not like maybe they have accessibility issues that make it that they can't
Mhm.
use the meetings. Those things could be super handy for being able to make what they were talking about and stuff available to them in a form that they can process. Like there's all kinds of interesting possibilities there. I have no idea why I'm on this tangent, but basically is
It's Linux
I
Saloon.
have five chat platforms, and 2 of them are mandatory because of work. The other 3 are only one of them is one I use every day, all the time. The others they're withering on the vine, and I'm happy about it. So if I were to take the very strictest sense, it's 5. If I were to take the more pragmatic sense, I'm actually only on 3 platforms, which is great. Like just 2 years ago, I was on 8 platforms on a day-to-day basis. And so getting it down from 8 to 3 has been phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not. I wouldn't say I spend a lot of time on most of these. Mostly just check to see if I have a message and
Mhm.
decide whether I'm going to ignore them or not. But yeah, no, I have. I think 1, 2, 3, 12 that I can count right now.
Mhm. I answered 6. I discounted the Twitter and stuff because they're not strictly chat programs. Because but if you want to count, I'm on 12. But I use Google Chat. I use WhatsApp. That is actually required for work, which is they want the end-to-end encryption of WhatsApp. So
Condense them to matrix, because then you don't have to give people phone numbers.
That'd be
yeah,
nice.
but they're scared of open source technology.
Because it can be
What?
audited and stuff like that. That's probably
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why, but they just don't like it. So
they probably read
it's
something like 20 years ago and they've just got
yeah,
stuck on that. Probably.
probably. But I don't argue with them about it. I mean, I could give them like talks, and I'm just like, if you want that end encryption, you can do that, but they don't want to do that. So, but then you also have let's see, I exist on Telegram. I'm hardly ever on. You can ask the Linux Saloon group. I'm hardly ever on it. I gotta get that installed again. But I use Discord quite a bit because I'm into gaming, and that's where all the gamers are. So be that as it may, I practically only use it now for voice chat. but that's about it. And then, let's see, I'm on Facebook Messenger and then SMS, and that's about it.
Cool.
I forgot about Facebook Messenger. I exist
me-
there. I don't use it.
I
But-
I exist there too for Facebook Marketplace mostly.
Hmm.
Yeah, the main reason I exist there is I have one childhood friend who cannot figure out technology to save her life, and that is the only platform she has managed to figure out how to use.
Hmm.
And because I love her so much, and she's also on the other side of the world, and so teaching her anything is going to be very hard. I grin and bear it, even though there's a 14+ hour time difference between us.
Well,
So
Mighty fine of you to make that concession, that Facebook concession.
yeah, well, I don't use Facebook for literally anything else. Like I
Yeah,
sign
me
into
either.
it maybe once a year,
Hmm.
maybe
I-
twice.
I would have dumped Facebook if not for the fact there are all these like really cool like groups on there that I really enjoy. There's some Lego groups and some vintage tech groups, and so it's like,
Yeah.
you know, there are forums also out there, but they're just not quite as active. And then people share like pictures of what they're doing, and I really enjoy that. And that's why I use
Yeah.
Twitter. Actually, that's why I use any social media. Really, it's just for like those different groups that have the interesting things.
LinkedIn
Well-
chat, I forgot about that.
Oh, I forgot
use
that too.
Right,
13.
I actually do use that.
Because I've talked to you on LinkedIn chat, actually.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Right, it
But,
happens.
Yeah.
But as far as Facebook goes, most of my friends, they never use SMS text messages. They always message me through Facebook, and I keep on saying, I'm wanting to get rid of this dang platform. Stop texting me on my phone number. But no, they just want to message me on Facebook, so I have to keep it. Or else I would never ever talk to anybody.
I probably underestimated my chat systems too by one or two systems. I forgot about LinkedIn Messenger, and I use that one too.
Right? We all
I do-
forgot it, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the
And
worst
then,
messaging services too, I think. It's irritating
Yeah.
to use.
I did have to include FaceTime in mine.
Oh,
I really I would have considered that a messaging because I think of it more of a meeting type
Yeah,
of thing.
sure.
But my family won't text message me. So my
Oh.
daughter and wife, they want
Well-
to see me face to face. So I got to consider that one kind of the a messaging.
Yeah, I don't have FaceTime or iMessage, but
Mhm.
occasionally I use this, Zoom. But
I use Zoom every day. I didn't consider that in this poll. I wasn't really thinking is a messaging app. I
Yeah,
was
it's not really, yeah.
it's
I
not
mostly
really. It's very bad at it.
I mostly meant it as like text, like letters. Like Zoom, I wouldn't count that way because even though there is a chatting ability in Zoom, you mostly do face-to-face conversation or at least audio.
Hmm.
Now, would
But
you
I
count?
during the day, sorry, Nate, during the day, if I got to have a conversation more than a couple of chats in Teams, I'll give my coworkers a Zoom link, my personal Zoom room, and tell them to join it because I just don't want to spend a lot of time messaging when you can communicate the issue a lot faster in a few minutes, right?
You guys don't use the team video call? Like I'm actually. I know it's
I-
terrible.
I hate it.
It's
horrible.
I know it's horrible, but like most places that use Teams tend to actually use the Teams video call feature because it's just built in. And one of the advantages of Team video call, and props to them for this, instant meetings are just literally a click away in a chat.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it would be good.
It
It's
just
just
sucks.
in my work culture, it just Zoom is better and
No, totally.
and Teams is there and available, but we all avoid it.
So
And we use Teams for chatting all day long, but then we use Zoom for meeting face to face or doing screen shares. And
at my previous employer, before they were acquired, the way it worked for us was Zoom was our primary video chat platform. Then Slack was our primary text chat platform. Google Meet and Google Chat were our fallback platforms if those two were dead. And if those were also dead, then, well, we used to have other fallbacks, but we didn't. But like after years of like not actually having any service failures in anything, we just got rid of them. But like the day your Google account is down is a very bad day. So and that basically hasn't happened in the 10 years that they were using Google. Now, on Microsoft, after that company was acquired, the switch over to Microsoft gave us our first real experience of regular downtime in our chat platform and in our video call platform and our mail. That was not great. And I would probably say that it's probably a good idea that you use Zoom as your primary video call platform for those things. You might also want to think about having a backup chat platform in the event that Teams is down. Because when SharePoint or Exchange goes down, or M365 services go down, which happens with a surprising amount of regularity, you probably want to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
I think
And I mentioned last week, I don't use Slack. I found there's just too many people that only post emojis and GIFs, animated GIFs, and I just avoid that. There's no work going on there, so I just completely avoid it.
You can turn off emojis in Slack.
I know they probably should, but I
meant you as a person. If you don't like them, you can switch it off.
Oh yeah.
Yep. In a workspace preferences, go in there, set preferences, go to appearance, emoticons, emoji, turn off. Done. If you don't like, there are accessibility reasons. You can even just say, I want regular emoji, but no animated ones. Yeah. You can even do that. Like, there's a lot of flexibility. You can even have emoji convert back to their plain text versions.
I think the GIFs are the ones that are more annoying.
You can turn those off completely too.
You can't actually find work tasks and work things that need to be done because there's too much other. And I think it's a culture thing, just between. Yeah. It probably varies between company to company, and it just so happened in Teams there was more work being done, and in Slack there was not. So that's what I ended up with right now.
Yeah. So where I am now, we don't really have a whole lot of GIFs or whatever, and emoji usage is, they're there, but they're not like extremely prominent. And where I was before we were forcibly switched to Teams, emoji and GIF usage wasn't super high. It was used for sure, but it was used tastefully, except for in the leisure channels, so to speak, where you kind of expect that like that's just what's going to happen there. But the work-centric channels, they were much more reasonable. A lot of people tended to use emoji as a way of conveying emotion when they're typing, rather than using it as like splatter all over the place. So like if somebody was writing a sentence that could be misconstrued as sarcastic or serious or whatever, they'd put a smiley face to show that it's not a serious, or they'll use a stuck out tongue to say that this is a silly statement. Don't, whatever. Right. I actually think that emoji makes text richer and less likely to be misunderstood. If used well, you can use emoji as a way to convey something that you ordinarily can't get from just words.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I know when I say silly things to people, I will use emojis with the winky stuck out tongue face. That's probably my most commonly used one.
Yeah, I can understand that, because when you're not face to face with somebody, you miss so much of that communication. That nonverbal is a big deal.
Right, the body language is gone.
Right. So when you're texting, it's just easy to get somebody completely wrong. But like what was mentioned about the emoticons, the smiley faces and whatnot, now the person, it's not a substitute, but it at least helps out the situation so that the conversation can be better and you guys are still friends at the end of the day.
Yeah. The important part is that you don't hate each other at the end.
Yeah.
I just automatically assume that someone is trying to be awesome unless they prove otherwise. That's how I try and take all conversations.
Not everyone does that, unfortunately.
I try to do that. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but for the most part, even when I get messages from like people who I know don't like me, I just assume they're being friendly. And then it doesn't eat me up, you know? It doesn't I don't have to worry about it bothering me.
You are a far better person than most people.
True.
No, it's a selfish thing. I don't want any undue stress. So I was going to say
You are that itself is far better than most people. Like, that is a perfectly wholesome, selfish reason to be that way. There are so few people who actually think that way.
Well, here's the thing. All right, let's say somebody berates me, whatever, says all kinds of awful things to me. Is it likely they're going to show up at my funeral anyway? And the chances are no. So what do I care? Like, really?
Wow, that's dark. That went dark fast.
Well, I'm just saying, try to put it in perspective. Like, in the vast configuration of things throughout the course of your life, it's not worth getting wound around the axle about nonsense. You know, are they really? Was that friendship or that relationship, was that pivotal in any part of like my life and such that they're going to show up, when I'm being viewed, I try and put like in perspective in the vast configuration of things. So,
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people aren't like that.
Right.
They'll quickly jump to being offended. Oh my goodness, how dare you? And then their mind kind of turns off all logic. And it's just pure emotion. So what you're talking about, it's not exactly like a Vulcan, but it's being more logical, more reasonable about.
Well, you're taking the long view.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, this is where emoji helps because most people don't think like that. And emoji can either amplify or blunt a perceived message.
Sure. I was also told by Adam that apparently the thumbs up is like passive aggressive, and so I stopped
Why?
using that.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
He said it was passive aggressive for himself. I don't think he meant for everyone.
Anyway, so I started using like the party popper emoji anytime someone says something.
I just thought you were just being unnecessarily high or
Enthused?
whatever.
Unnecessarily enthused. That could be.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
So.
But no, I don't think I've never heard of anyone interpreting the thumbs up as a passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Like what?
But you got to remember the times we're in. People, it's just an age of hypersensitivity.
And a crushing pandemic.
Yeah, so I can't put it past how folks are.
Yeah. Well,
I think Adam just thought it was lazy, and he
Oh,
thought that
yeah,
people, he thought it was lazy, so he didn't like it. He's like, thumbs up, like, you guys couldn't have done something better. He was just. I think he's more disappointed with it than he doesn't like it.
Well,
I'll give you an example of that, but it goes in the opposite direction. It's like on Reddit, for example, and you make a comment and it has a whole lot of downvotes, but those people don't write at all what it is that they disagree with about your comment. It just downvote. And it's like, okay, you're not contributing.
Yeah. At least they're saying they don't like it. You got interaction. What is it? You got people at least reacting. Engagement. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I was lost. Now
you're a content creator. You should know this word.
I know, but it's like, so there are some times I my mind just goes blank on me. It happens more often than I'd like to admit. So it happened right there. But I did mention, I think it was after a Linux Saloon when Adam brought that up about the thumbs up. So I did reply to one of his comments with like a GIF that had like a chain of all these different people giving thumbs up. Like it was like a really long, it's like the longest GIF I have of just all these different like thumbs up things, and to really show my enthusiastic thumbs up to him. But anyway, yeah, I like the thumbs up. I think that the Telegram, like thumbs up, the animated one, that seems less lazy to me than just a emoji thumbs up. But maybe that's just me. Well, anyway, that was a fun conversation, Aris. We got to talking. We went from chat to emojis to passive aggressiveness. Back to emojis.
Well, don't forget the AI that was in
and
the middle.
AI. Yeah, right. AI was in the middle. And Teams talk. So I like that. That's quite the chain of conversations. So tonight is an open mic night, and that's kind of the spirit of open mic night. We're just gonna chat about whatever. And something I wanted to bring up was on this open mic night, I did notice, and we should all be excited, that the Solus website is up and operational again. So they haven't gone anywhere. So that's good. But then it kind of got me thinking, like, does anybody here use Solus? I know it was very popular for quite a while. So Swift use Solus, and anybody else use like any of the more? I don't mean this in any kind of disparaging way, but more boutique. By boutique, I mean anything that's not mainline Ubuntu, Red Hat family, or SUSE family. Does anybody use anything outside of that? Or Debian? Debian's also. Anybody use
I
anything
use
outside?
that Max Linux, and
Yeah,
I
which
don't
is-
think that's
That's basically Debian essentially with some.
That's
The
Debian.
Debian family.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, does it count if I made a boutique distribution at one point?
Do you use it now?
Not anymore.
Well, like in Ubuntu flavor, it's basically just mainline Ubuntu with different window dressings, right?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I made a distribution from scratch and
Yep.
like built it and then like worked on it for a couple of years and then just gave up and decided I was done.
what was it based on?
Nothing.
Oh, really?
Huh? Huh?
Yeah, nothing.
You built your own
Like
packaging?
I said, from scratch. I used RPM packaging because
Okay.
I don't
Oh.
hate myself that much.
Oh, okay.
But but like it wasn't derived from a distribution.
Wow.
I worked on it for a few years and did a bunch of interesting things around that. And it actually fed into, actually, I do have a not mainline distribution that I have currently used on one of these computers somewhere. Open Mandriva.
Would you consider that a boutique distribution?
Yeah, I would.
At this point, I would. Open Mandriva.
I mean,
and Hashi have
Mandrake doesn't exist anymore, so
the parent Mandriva family's dead. All
Yeah.
of the little branches have splintered off and done their own weird stuff. Like nobody has anything, almost nobody has anything in common anymore. So they all might as well just be like you got in the Mandrake family that again, the Mandrake parent is dead. The Mandriva
Mhm.
parent is dead. The Connectiva parent is dead. So
mhm.
you have Alt, you have Open Mandriva, you have Magia, you have PC Linux OS, and like maybe a couple of others that are like forks of those. And that's pretty much it. Like that family is toast.
So I can't remember which one it was you're talking about. This is years ago we talked about this. Between Magia and Open Mandriva, one of them was more forward focused, and then the other.
So Open Mandriva is more forward focused, and Magia is not. They both have very small teams working on stuff, but Open Mandriva has someone who has a vision and is pushing things forward, and Magia doesn't.
Magia is more like status quo, hang on to the past.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's about, what,
It makes me a
2008?
little sad because I was involved. I am still technically involved in Magia a little bit, but I was trying to be one of those kinds of people of bringing Magia forward, bringing some of the good stuff that they have from the Mandrake days and Mandriva days, combining with some more up-to-date tech and trying to revitalize it a bit. And community doesn't want it. I tried. They don't want it. So
Yeah.
you can only do so much.
Right.
And then over the course of the past like 5-ish years, the number of contributors in Magia have dwindled a lot. And 5, 6, 7 years. Like I started contributing to Magia in 2015. And actually it's what got me into DNF and started contributing to DNF and improving package management stuff all over the place, and which later led it to being brought into OpenSUSE and and then OpenMandriva and Rosa and all these other things. Oh, right, I forgot about Rosa. Yeah, but like, so these distributions, like, it all kind of sparked for me doing work on Magia, and ironically, Magia is the one place where I haven't had any success.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder
but
why
all that stuff, like, it's because some of the people there who don't really contribute whine and complain about losing what makes them like Mandriva or whatever, or Mandrake, and they're like, making these changes will just turn us into like Fedora, for example, because they like bringing up the fact that I'm like involved in the Fedora project, and then I naturally must want to turn Magia into Fedora. Like, the truth is, if I wanted to turn Magia into Fedora, I'd just go do more Fedora things. Like, I don't need to turn another distribution into Fedora. That's like pointless. It already exists. But they were like, every time I was trying to propose something or improve something, that point kept being brought up, and it got exhausting, and it got to a point where and like, I'd even helped other people like develop tools and stuff like that. Like, for example, DNF Dagora, that's in some of the Fedora spins. That actually is from Magia. I helped write it for Magia, and it was adopted by everyone but them. Like, the freaking namespace for the AppStream metadata is org Magia monotools DNF Dagora. It is literally from the Magia project. But nope, Magia didn't want to. Magia folks are just, they didn't want it. They didn't want to modernize or update anything, and they wanted to hold on to all the old stuff. And it was very frustrating, because I easily saw what eventually happened. Like, if you don't move forward or keep up and support the new stuff while bringing what makes you special along for the ride, eventually you just get left behind, and it's not great. OpenMandriva, actually, I think they took the opposite approach, probably a little too strongly. They were very aggressive about dropping the Mandrake stuff, because lots of the Mandrake stuff is written in Perl. Nobody really likes working with Perl all that much anymore. And the vision that the guy who is in charge of OpenMandriva, Bernard Rosenkranzer, is mostly around building a high, from his view, a high quality customized KDE-like experience across, exotic architectures and platforms. So, like, they're working on RISC-V. They were working on. They ported the whole distribution over to using the Clang compiler instead of using GCC, and they have an AMD Ryzen optimized build of their whole distribution, and all kinds of stuff like this. Like, they're willing to do stuff. In some respects, OpenMandriva is like an incubator or a laboratory where you get to see interesting ideas come in and go out through the cooker, and it's pretty cool. And I got a lot of experience, and I engendered a lot of dislike for Clang and LLVM from working on that for so long, but I learned a lot from doing that, and it was very cool. And that stuff led to, I did some of the most ambitious and crazy distribution integration projects I ever did in that project. And that led to me getting involved briefly for a time in a distribution called Rosa Linux. It's a Russian distribution that's a derivative of OpenMandriva that also focuses on KDE and stuff like that. But they have a slightly different take on it. They're a little bit in the middle between Magia and OpenMandriva. So they have more acknowledgement of their Mandrake roots in there, but they are moving forward and doing new things and stuff like that. And I helped them adopt some of the new stuff that I did in OpenMandriva. They use DNF just like OpenMandriva does now. And yeah, like, it was an interesting experience. And those people are nice, and it's unfortunate how things have just gotten so screwy with the yeah. I don't need to go more
It's
into that.
unfortunate how the world has gotten screwy, and it affects
Yeah.
just regular people who just want to live life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I totally agree. I
yeah,
totally agree.
So to answer the question, boutique distribution, Open Mandriva.
Mhm.
And I also have somewhere a virtual machine with Magia on it, but like I have a laptop that I fiddle around with it with Open Mandriva simply because they do enough different things that it's actually kind of fun to like poke at it with hardware.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've got one that runs a boutique distribution. A laptop runs Ginks.
I don't know that one.
Oh, GNU
It's Ginks. It's basically the GNU project when they made it into into a Linux distribution. It's actually managed and maintained by the GNU team, and it's definitely not for the new user at all. It's I would say it's as difficult to install as Gentoo, but it uses all the GNU tools like GNU shepherds the init system. Don't use that. It's full of security holes because it hasn't been maintained in about 10 years and stuff like that. But yeah, it is actually pretty cool how it works. But I did swap out GNU shepherd for System D because I just couldn't get that to work with some stuff.
How dare you? That sounds blasphemous. I don't know.
What,
Maybe.
swapping out the init system?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I'm just saying that to see like if there'd be a response from somebody.
Well,
But,
like I didn't know that Shepherd was unmaintained, but the Gweeks people, they're very
Mhm.
nice people.
Yeah.
They actually they maintained a couple of split out System D stuff for
Mhm.
eLogin D and like and EUDev. They help work on those because when you're using GNU Shepherd, they still want to use that. And,
Yeah.
But I didn't know
they've
that
got some
Shepherd was.
built-in shunts, but some of them just did not work with some of my tools I wanted to work.
I didn't know that Shepherd was unmaintained. I had
It
assumed
had not. Well, I think they've recently started to maintain it again, but for a while they just didn't maintain it for 10 years because no one used it.
Well, yeah, because it was only used with hard until they started adding the Linux kernel into the Gweeks
Yeah.
and into the GNU system distribution. So
Yeah.
for those who don't know, GNU Geeks or Gweeks, depending on who you're
Mhm.
talking to, is the GNU it's the full name is GNU Geeks SD or the GNU Geeks
Mhm.
system distribution. It's
Yeah.
basically a play on the BSD name for GNU stuff, and
Mhm.
it is inspired by NixOS, and it is fully built on GNU Guile as the language for describing how the system works. You
Yeah.
basically program a operating system environment using Guile, and then it
Mhm.
essentially will build your environment up based on your program description.
Yeah. And that's why I don't suggest it for the new user, because if you try and install it, you're gonna get lost unless you know the GNU tools and all that stuff. You're gonna get lost.
So
I barely got it installed.
I have an interesting question from Don in the chat. It says, I was listening to the FSF Libre Planet conference today, and folks are promoting Triskel, which is an FSF-free compliant fork of Ubuntu. Anyone tried it?
Yeah.
What are the benefits of that? Like, if I get FSF? I know I had a brain fart. If I get an FSF free compliant whatever fork of anything, what am I gaining by getting it? Is it more of an idealistic gain, or is there an actual
So
benefit?
They also used to sponsor a project called Freedora, which basically forked the Fedora kernel to fork the Fedora kernel and ship a version of it without the binary blobs. Triskel and other distributions like it, Parabola, Hyperbola, Blag, a few others out there, their purpose is to essentially implement the GNU project ideal of 100% free software. And in the current interpretation of that, that means removing firmware packages from the distribution. And so all the firmware packages that are under non-free licenses, and using the free software terminology here, under non-free licenses, all of it's stripped. The kernel is using Linux Libre instead of regular Linux kernel software. So it will refuse to load any non-free firmware because it has been patched out and removed. And so that is the process they call deblobbing, removing blobs from the Linux kernel. And so when you're using Triskel, Parabola, Blag, Freedora, whatever, that is the principal benefit you get, if you consider that a benefit.
So
now,
what about
practice, you
hardware?
Don't have Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah, no hardware.
You don't have Wi-Fi. You don't have GPU acceleration. You don't have certain types of networking cards working. You don't have certain types of storage controllers working. Like, you need to be way more careful about what hardware you have in your computer if you want to run it on real hardware. I personally don't own a single computer that can run Triskel.
Me neither. To me, it'd be more of a hindrance if I couldn't have my non-free firmware. I mean, I have an HP laptop over here that literally every piece of hardware in it is proprietary. I'm like, literally, it loads like 9 or 12 firmware blobs into it to make it to, because like the screen is proprietary, everything is proprietary in it. And
there's actually another aspect of this. You just reminded me. Microcode loading is disabled in Linux Libre, which means that if Intel or AMD have to fix a vulnerability in the CPU microcode, you ain't getting it.
No.
That seems problematic.
It is a little. Yeah. And that is one of the major reasons why I just don't like the Linux Libre kernel. It's just because you don't have all those fixes. And it's that, to me, with the free software and all that stuff, there's a balance. And if you can't get your work done, then what's the point of the ideology of having everything free software? It literally hinders your ability to get work done. It literally hinders your ability to play games, all of that. And that's why I'm just like, no, I'm not an extremist when it comes to that, because I have a computer to get work done. And if I can't get my work done using free software, I'm going to go down the proprietary route.
So here's the devil's advocate point of view for that, right? If nobody does it, how does free software move forward? And somebody has to take that position, and somebody has to try to move the needle, because if nobody does, then the needle never moves. Like, we would have not gotten a Linux distribution if someone didn't say, it is because of this inconvenience, I'm going to try to fix it. And because in the 80s, right, the GNU distribution, the GNU software set was not complete.
No,
it wasn't complete. And people tried and kept working at it and kept building it up. Same goes for all this other stuff. Like, somebody has to strive for better. Now, that's obviously not the right position for everyone, but somebody has to do it. And if nobody does it, then it never moves forward. It never gets better.
Yeah. And well, the thing is, number one, I'm not that person, but the thing, yes, but
it also depends on what your work is, because just maybe your work can't get done, but there might be others whose work is just fine. Like Ron Singh says, Triskel conforms to the idea less is more, deblobbed kernel, so no non-free software, no user space non-free software, Spartan and lovely. I like it on my X200 running Libre boot. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
So there, I can see, I agree that, Neil, that you have to have the counterbalance to totally, I mean, because if not for maybe that counterbalance voice, I would be like, yeah, whatever, proprietary blob, whatever, I'll just take it so I can use my computer. But it makes you stop and at least give pause and think about, what is it? how much do you want no control over your system? And I think having that project there to push some of those ideals forward, which I think are important. I think ideally everything should be open sourced to include the hardware, but that's not practical. So a little bit, kind of let's say like, you know, some organization out there to adhere to, you know, like a Mandalorian. This is the way, right? For to do a computer. I think that there may be some value in that. I just don't think that I can never take my helmet off and use non-proprietary software entirely.
And also, and here's another point I'll make: the free software extremists often get into forums, and they will go and they'll start bullying the new. I've seen this a lot. They'll start bullying the new users who want all this proprietary software so they can start getting used to it. And they keep saying, well, no, you have all these open source tools. And I've seen them go in there and outright just bully them, and then they bully them back to Windows because they won't tell them how to get their work done at all, or they won't tell them how to run their software at all because some ideology that they hold that the other person doesn't.
Keep in mind that with any hobby, any passion out there, you're going to have someone who's a little overzealous about it, whether it's your favorite team or a manufacturer, you know, someone who really likes Razer or Dell. I don't know of any Dell zealots. Maybe there are. But you're always going to have somebody zealot. I mean, someone who like beats you over the head and so you sit down, you know, over things. So you're always going to have somebody out there that says, no, this is better because, and they're just going to be, you know, whatever it is. And I think then when you have, you know, nerds, people who are technology enthusiasts, but I'm going just a little beyond that and saying, you know, really hardcore nerdy people who also lack some basic social skills. It's not so much that I want to call them anybody an extremist about their open source or free software. I would be more apt to say they're more overzealous and they're probably not communicating well. And yeah, it's off-putting for someone who doesn't understand. And I think that it's important that there are groups, I will say, like, you know, like Linux Saloon or like the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group that are welcoming and actually kind of a counter, you know, some geeks with social skills, I guess. Not to say that I have them, but that can be welcoming, answer those questions, and help people get to a solution that's, you know, maybe not all open source, but maybe more open source. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, maybe extremist isn't the right word, but
yeah, I like to avoid that kind of
advocates, enthusiasts.
Yeah.
Advocates and enthusiasts are probably better labels than that one.
So the question I was going to get to with all that is, do you think boutique distributions? Do you think there is always going? How do I put this?
If you ask me if there's always going to be one, I'm going to tell you unequivocally yes. Because people will just do it.
Right, people just do it. But do you think they all have legs?
No.
Yeah, and then how do you know when a boutique distribution doesn't have legs? I'm not saying Solus doesn't, because I think they have a lot of, I think, really neat, compelling things about it. At least they did. I don't know much about Solus today, but you know, the Budgie desktop, which came through Solus, I think is very interesting. And
yeah, but it's not part of Solus anymore.
No, it's not. So has maybe things like Solus, or not saying Solus, but like Solus, do they run their course and then the technologies that they have brought forward are assimilated into the more mainline distributions?
Sometimes, if what they've done makes sense and sees positive attraction, then yes. Like, for example, Budgie is definitely spreading. We're getting a Fedora Budgie spin
right
for Fedora 38. But LSI, the Linux Steam integration thing, or LDM, the Linux driver integration stuff that was all written in Solus long, long ago, they've gone nowhere. All of that's like gone nowhere. A lot of the Solus, whatever the heck they're calling their packaging stuff now, that's all
package.
gone nowhere too. And I think it's called Sol now at some point. I mean, there was EO package and there was EY package and there's Sol. I don't know what it is anymore. But all of that didn't go anywhere. And again, like I made a boutique distribution. It was up and limping around for a couple of years, and now nobody's ever heard of it, and it's okay because I accomplished things. The stuff that mattered fed into the other ones that are like it, and the rest of it, whatever. It was interesting, it was fun, and it did the thing. And this happens more often than not, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a boutique distribution where they did everything from scratch, right? Like a boutique distribution that's derived from a mainline one also can have this effect. And it just sort of depends. Like sometimes they have legs, most of the time they don't. And in some respects, that's I mean, it's fine. Like that's how experimentation works. That's how, I mean, like if I want to be truly technical about this, it's basically natural selection. Right, like the ones that have legs wind up evolving and sticking around, and the ones that don't, well, don't. So there you go.
But yeah, and sometimes other people, sometimes they take their legs, cannibalize them, and then leave them not walking anymore. If they'll take all the good stuff, meaning they'll take all the stuff that make them stand. They'll go and they'll take that, integrate them in there, and then all of a sudden the distribution just dies. Is what I meant.
Well, a distribution is nothing more than the people that do it. That's what a distribution is. The distribution is just an expression of a group of people of how to build an operating system.
Put together a Linux system, right?
So there is nothing. A Linux distribution is nothing without its people. And then, in order for people to rally behind something, they have to have a vision. And then if there is no vision, then I think then the project will cease to exist eventually. So, so things like, and you know, Neil, you talked about some weeks back that how people don't have as positive of an outlook of Linux companies as they once did.
Yep.
I don't know that I have seen that, but you know, maybe I'm just in different. I'm probably
you're in happier circles than me. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I'm probably a little bit aloof as well, because OpenSUSE has SUSE, and SUSE wants to continue to exist. It has a selfish reason to continue to exist long term because people who have vested interest and so forth. That then the open source expression of SUSE, or the more OpenSUSE, it kind of has vision. Although I would say it's a little bit. It's not like they have driving. It's not a very authoritarian driven project, I would say. It's more it's very community, but it does have it kind of rides that wave behind the commercial company, as I think Fedora does with Red Hat, and then Ubuntu has its commercial offerings as well. So it seems like because because they're self-sustaining and people able to sustain themselves off of it, those things will continue. But the things that maybe don't have that kind of commercial, except for Arch, for whatever reason, Arch still exists, and I have no idea how that is a thing. But
Arch exists because it's very small, actually, as a distribution. So Arch follows a much more traditional community distribution split, where they have stuff that's maintained by the Arch core team, and then there's a bunch of extras that are maintained by a separate team. And then all the rest of it's dumped out to the external community in the AUR. This allows them to keep the set manageable and maintainable enough with the team that they actually have to keep Arch going. And that is how they succeed, because they are not growing the distribution in the same way that, say, if you look at Debian or Fedora or I guess OpenSUSE to a lesser extent. OpenSUSE has done some growing. Actually, you could probably argue that OpenSUSE is a little bit of a blend between the Fedora / Debian model and the Arch model, because despite the fact that it'd be a really good idea if all the packages that people are making and find interesting for OpenSUSE would actually be in the OpenSUSE distributions, most people don't even try to submit any of them. They stay in their home projects or do their own thing in their own OBS projects and whatever. And again, that can be fine, but it results in OpenSUSE inadvertently being a little bit more like Arch and a little less like Fedora or Debian in that respect.
Also, the reason why Arch exists is it's the ultimate hobbyist distro because you can just build whatever you want out of your system and only have what you want on the system.
Well,
I don't know.
Whereas
I
mo-
think Gentoo would fit under that, but
Yeah, well, but Gentoo is a little bit more complicated than Arch is as far as installing it.
I think they all are to some extent.
hmm
Because wait, I don't know about. I know Debian for sure, and OpenSUSE I can have like just enough operating system where it's really really tiny and I can build it from there. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I've built a Fedora system like from scratch by just booting up like the boot CD and then using DNF install root and picking the packages like quote unquote the Arch way. You can do that with any distribution if you so choose.
Yeah.
Actually, apt is quite painful for this, but you can do it. It's a thing you can do,
Mhm.
right? Like the difference between these and Arch is that Arch makes you do it.
Yes.
Where Gentoo, although to be fair, Arch now no longer makes you do it because they now have a guided wizard, an installer, which they said they would never do, and then they did it.
never say never.
Never say never, but they have it, and so like Arch is much more like it. Arch is increasingly becoming more like the rest of them because I think they've learned that they need to. Otherwise, it's very hard for them to grow.
I think it's really worth trying Arch again.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I've tried to install Arch and that was just a real pain. Even when I did Antergos years ago, that was just a royal pain. You know, I had to uncheck certain stuff just to make the thing start, and then it ended up locking up on me anyway. So yeah.
So I want to thank Adam and Rick for joining. So welcome.
What's up? So I heard folks were talking about me earlier. I was eating dinner.
Yeah, we were.
I want to set the record straight on that thumbs up thing.
Yeah.
So the reason I consider it condescending is if I send you like a paragraph of something, and I'm like, hey, here are all the things that like I've done or that I need to do and all this thing, and I put a lot of thought into it, and you just respond with a thumbs up, that's basically saying, F you, I really don't care, you know? Because like you didn't even bother to say, okay, sounds good, or any kind of effort into the response. You just gave me a thumbs up, and it's like, you know what? I don't have to have this conversation again. I'm out.
That's a good point. So what would you say it's better than just not respond?
Yeah, at that point, I just assume you're not at your computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because like, but if you give me the thumbs up, it's like, I really just don't care what you're saying, but I just want you to let you know that I actually saw you wrote text.
Well, they could be at their computer, or they could not be at their computer, but they could be at their phone. They read it, and thumbs up is the easiest way to actually respond.
I would rather they just not respond and wait till they can put a meaningful response back.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an impedance mismatch that'll continue to be a thing for a while to come.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've grown to accept that it's a thing, but it's not a thing that I have to accept, if you get what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose.
See, but it does have me like conscientious now about like, if I do something like that, like hopefully I don't do something like that, or maybe I'll.
If it's like a short thing, like if there's not a lot of effort in what I said to you and you thumbs up, I get that. But it's when I put a lot of effort into it and then you put none, and I'm like, okay, I see. Like if I give you something that if it takes like a minute and a half to read my response and you just thumbs up, it's like I don't even know that you actually read it because you didn't even give me anything back.
So like I could say something effective like, you know, I put a lot of time and effort into editing Linux Saloon after the fact, and I don't even get some thumbs ups. So I mean, it'd be
right.
That's actually probably, you know, I get quite a few.
Those are different thumbs ups. Those
just
happen to be the glyph for I approve.
I mean, what if they're saying I approve?
Well, a lot of
Then
people
they should say so. If they should say it back in even a modicum amount of like even sounds good is better than a thumbs up, because at least they put some calories into typing out sound good instead of just hitting the thumbs up. Because the thumbs up, they don't even have to select the emoji anymore. It's like you just hover over the response and click the button.
So that
like,
I actually
tap it
don't
in,
like.
like-
I don't like that. When I do thumbs up to a response, I actually make it a text input thumbs up and not a reaction thumbs up, because
So it's the reaction thumbs up that bothers me the most.
oh, okay, well then I totally get that one. That
yeah,
one's just
because it's like screw you. You didn't even type anything back.
So
you just clicked a button and moved on.
If I reacted to a long post from you with like the vomiting emoji, would that be better?
Yeah, at least that's
yeah,
like sort
that's
of
because you went
that, like, has some
the
expression to
emoji.
it. But like again, all right, think about this as like a face-to-face interaction, right? If I go to you and I tell you something that takes me about 2 minutes to explain, and you just respond with like a flat mouth and thumbs up, am I gonna walk away? Am I gonna be pissed? Yeah, because you just like, with the thumbs up, just that's the response.
It's kind of like saying neat.
Not even that. There's not even a verbal response. It's just a thumbs up. Like you can't even bother to like vibrate the vocal cords. You just thumbs up.
What if you're mute?
That's a good point. What if you are mute?
Then you're probably speaking in sign language anyway.
Yeah.
Thumbs up is way faster than the sign language way of approval.
Right, but I'm not going to speak at you. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's rude. Although that's a typical American thing that if the other person speaks a different language, you just say what you're saying, but slower and louder.
Right.
But yeah.
I don't know about the slower part, but definitely louder. I definitely get louder. I hear people do louder.
The Colonel.
I think it's not an exclusive American thing about the louder and slower, because I've experienced that in foreign countries when I didn't speak the language.
French people do that to me a lot. And it just because I can't speak French doesn't mean I don't know what your words kind of mean, because I've heard them before.
But anyway, I felt like I needed to clear the air on the whole thumbs up thing.
No, I like it.
I just heard people talking mad s about me, and I wasn't fan.
Oh, no, it wasn't mad. It was happy s actually.
No, I'm just messing. I heard. I was eating my dinner.
Yeah, I noticed that everyone else was like pressing the thumbs up button while he was explaining.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
So speaking of hardware having blobs on it, has anybody noticed there's been an increase in like Linux friendly, and maybe it's just I'm just seeing it more, so maybe it's not an actual increase, but like there's a lot more like mini devices that are running Linux now. Has anybody seen that, or is it my imagination?
It's your imagination.
Is it? Well, I put it in the chat here.
It's actually relatively the same number. The difference is that what's happening is that they're being promoted more, because there's this like the whole mini device thing is now in vogue again.
Oh, okay.
And so they're just showing up more. But this has been there for a while. Like there have been like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 these type of devices like launching through Kickstarter or Indiegogo like a year. Most of them fail. But ever since the deck launched, people have been paying way more attention to these types of devices.
Gotcha.
And promoting them when they show up.
Yeah, maybe that could be it. So I'm just seeing a lot more of them. There's this one called the Auspicious Machine with a modular handheld Linux PC, BlackBerry style keyboard, and gaming buttons. So it has like
my gosh.
Yeah, so I really like this little thing. I have no practical reason for why I would get one whatsoever, but I think it's a really neat thing. So it uses their solutions based on the Raspberry Pi Compute Module form factor. Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4 form factor, make sure I said that correctly. And so obviously you get some options there, but it seems like a neat little device. Now, I don't know what I would do with it. Maybe it'd be fun for like...
It looks like it's only available in China.
Well, wherever it's available. I'm sure you can get it shipped over here.
Well, if you can, you should pick one up and review it.
Well, I mean, I have so many other things that I haven't like fully explored yet that I don't need to add
Yeah,
another
but
one.
this thing is actually like unique.
It is.
It looks pretty cool. I might.
Also cheap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like playing old PC DOS games or Scum VM games, like the little ones, because in some ways this would be better for those old where you need a lot of text input type things than even the Steam Deck would be. And it's all one small little handheld device. I'd probably use it mostly for entertainment. Probably like you could do Game Boy stuff on there as well. Although I like it on the Steam Deck and it works just fine for me. But anyway, so I just thought this was really neat. I like the fact that it uses a compute module as opposed to just having a dedicated, complete board inside of it. It uses a replaceable module, which says that it kind of has some legs moving forward.
Yeah,
I would think.
I'm actually looking at getting a new Pine tab when they finally start making those. Because I was just like, I actually like the Pine brand of things. I've always liked them. I'm just like, well, let's just go ahead. I'm gonna eventually need a new tablet anyway, so I might as well get a Linux tablet.
Sure, yeah.
I really want to actually. Part of the reason is I want to support, because then if you support, it motivates them and they're able to have the capital to make even better stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas if they're not supported, then it's like, okay, we finally get a Linux tablet. Nobody supported it. We've been whining for years about it. We can't support it. So there's no justification to keep it going. I currently have an iPad, and that's absolutely wonderful. But I would really like to have a nice Linux tablet. I've been waiting a long time for this.
Yeah. And then also you have projects like the Librem 5 that had a lot of startup support, but then afterwards it was just so dang expensive, nobody bought it. So
I put another one in the chat that I think is interesting. Because there's been a lack of Raspberry Pis on the market, it seems like there have been a lot of other single board computers that have appeared. And this one is a Raspberry Pi form factor, but it has some other interesting features that Raspberry Pi does not. One is it has USB Type-C on there. It also has a M.2 connector for SATA storage. So something like this will be great for like low power server type functions. I mean, maybe not with a massive amount of storage, but nonetheless something that would have, faster storage, more than what you get in like USB or micro SD. So things like this, like little things like this, I think really excite me. It also has a real-time clock backup battery as well. That I think is also pretty compelling.
It's hilarious because I got several Pis just sitting in my drawer right now. I don't even use them. That's why I like the idea of all of a sudden they've gone up in value. People are having a hard time finding them. It's like, okay. Because there was a time I would have bought one just to buy one. And now they're there, but they're not really used. It's hilarious.
So I think something like this would be better than what I'm doing right now with my Pi for like the Pi hole, because they used an SD card as my because I'm using an SD card as my storage, because that's the easiest way to have onboard storage. It's a little dodgy than to add other functions and put more pressure on the SD card. At least that's how I see it. Unless somebody else sees something different.
And with the M.2, you can actually have, if it has an M.2 control, I think you said that did, it has the ability to have more storage than one SD card is going to have. So
I'm mostly concerned about reliable storage more than more storage.
I want
to welcome Nevoyu. How would you like me to say that? Nevoyu. Welcome.
But anyways, I just figured I'd come here because I need to spread the joy and love of Gentoo, the world's greatest operating system, to you guys.
Beautiful. Please do.
Obviously, you guys, none of you are installing Gentoo right now, so I'm here to convince you all to install Gentoo on your Raspberry Pis. It only takes about 2 days.
I'm impressed it got that fast.
Yeah.
The last time I tried it, it took like 2 weeks.
Well, on a Pi 4 with 8 gigabytes, if you compile the entire system, it only takes about 2 days if you actually sit there and take the time to do it without any breaks.
Oh, that's the difference. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. 48 hours of my life.
Yeah, nope. nope, not doing that. Like,
Hold on. I got it. Another 48 hours.
okay, I could probably pull it off in 1 week. Like, at one point, the last time I installed Gentoo semi-seriously, it took me about a month, and I was also doing it through dial-up. So there you go.
By the time you got it done, it was time to update.
Pretty much.
And then it was going to take you another month to update it.
That, and I never got X fully working, which was not fantastic.
So I want to hear the elevator pitch for why should you be using Gentoo.
Oh, this will be good.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
So very recently, I tried this wonderful operating system. You guys might recognize it. It's called Fedora. And I attempted to watch YouTube videos through my Firefox web browser, which, it works wonderfully 25% of the time. As for some reason, even though I have the checkbox enabled to play back DRM content in Firefox, for some reason, the support in Fedora 38 was not compiled correctly into it. So therefore, I can only watch 25% of YouTube videos.
That was actually just fixed today.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was just fixed today after I reported the bug.
Well, we built the packages and we sent them to Cisco, and they just sent them back, and so now the mirrors are syncing. So I know what you're talking about. It's because OpenH264 wasn't available for 38 properly, and the thing is we build it, we send it to Cisco, they go do their thing of uploading it to their thing and then telling us that they've uploaded it, and then we have to do weird magic to expose it to download, and then it works.
Well, you see, on Gentoo, you wouldn't have this problem because, you would have already spent 2 hours of your life compiling Firefox the first time, so that way you'd never have to worry about it.
Assuming you got all the right switches.
Until you have to upgrade Firefox. And, well, the flag thing, the right switches, that part's easy because Gentoo's portage, the use flag system is phenomenal at handling this. Yes. And the e-builds have actually reasonable defaults. So, like, you're not going to screw up unless you actually intentionally screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
It will, however, eat a day of your life. That is definitely going to happen.
It won't eat a day.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the elevator pitch. All I heard is that Firefox was busted.
Okay,
yeah.
And the wonderful benefit of Gentoo is that you actually get to have a life because Portage is the world's fastest package manager. It's called you tell Portage to do something and then you go do something else, like the dishes or cook dinner or go to bed
grass.
or go take a walk outside, and then you come back and it's magically done. Sometimes you might have to repeat.
Your pitch sucks.
But no,
I like the idea of using a computer to not use a computer.
Well, I've also tested Arch Linux, and Arch Linux has its own special use case with packages falling out of date or they're not maintained or whatever these days, and I think OBS Studio is like a really big key example of Arch Linux where they actually refuse to build in like the browser source plugin for OBS Studio because their version of the Chromium embedded framework is newer in their package repositories than what OBS Studio requires, which is an older version, and then they just refuse to update it because Arch Linux.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you're making probably the most compelling argument I've ever heard is using a Linux distro to not use a Linux distro.
Yeah.
Like, man, I don't think anyone's ever convinced me more than that.
I mean, I could argue performance benefits too, where my Firefox takes approximately half a quarter of a second faster to actually load up than it does.
Like a picosecond, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
My Raspberry Pis boot in less than 15 seconds. That's with the SD card too.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's pretty quick.
Those SD cards are all worn out from the compiling, though.
Yes. But don't tell anybody that. That's why you
Hey, I've been there. I did it once. I know what you're talking.
The trick is to sacrifice one SD card per Pi, and then you just DD the SD card to the SD card you actually want to use on the system.
Yeah, that is exactly how you do it, and you make sure you have some crappy SD cards that you could use for the actual compiling part that you're willing to burn.
Yep.
Yeah, but that'd be a very, very expensive way to maintain a Pi.
It would be.
You really don't want to do it the other way.
Yeah. Oh, I know that, but I'm still saying it's a very, very expensive way to maintain a Pi to keep buying SD cards to compile your updates.
To be honest, though, like the actual daily driving of Gentoo actually is not that bad because you're not actually compiling all the time. You're just compiling when you actually need to compile,
Right.
and that's really it.
Yeah.
And
That's
also in practice, some of the heaviest stuff for compiling, they're binary cache server side, and you just download and install them.
Actually, they have a repository with the entire KDE stack pre-compiled for you.
Yeah.
Gentoo is slowly turning from being a source-centric distribution to being a more traditional binary distribution because it's just gotten too difficult to do everything from source all the time for everything.
Yeah.
Anyone else think it's funny that we have like computers that are orders of magnitude faster than they used to be, and yet software is also ridiculously big as well. So the relative experience of Gentoo 10 years ago and Gentoo now is roughly
about
the same.
Like, Gentoo is faster.
But the thing is, you're always going to want with Gentoo, you're always going to have those users that want the source-centric stuff. They want to be able to compile it and make sure all the flags are right, so you get just everything compiled the way that they want to.
Well, when you can compile literally everything on your entire system with Jack support, then you don't have to worry about how your distro packages Jack. And then when you install Jack, it doesn't do the Debian thing where you get Jack plus its graphical utilities. You get just Jack, and everything actually works.
Yeah, that is a good benefit to Gentoo is that because that would also make sense for things like Pipewire as well. Because I mean, Pipewire with every different computer I have has worked differently, and if the distribution doesn't package it right, it just doesn't work. I've noticed that about Pipewire.
I'm not implying that you're amongst this group. However, most people that I've heard touting Gentoo as an actual daily driver are usually some kind of troll or grifter. And so you can understand, like in my case, my hesitance to hear your enthusiasm as anything but trying to get one over on me.
To be honest, I'm not trying to get over you at all. I'm literally just a troll. You can look up random YouTube videos that have nothing to do with Linux whatsoever. You can see me in there joking about Gentoo.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a Gentoo shill troll. It's fine.
There was a very funny video I saw on the Twitter about what Gentoo's like. Like someone has a problem with the door, so they cut the door off and they hinge it a totally different way. It's really very funny. It's like a combination of all this ridiculousness.
What you do is you take the door off, you replace the crappy old iron hinges with some nice fancy new brass ones, and you find out the brass is a soft metal. Even though it looks pretty for the first week, you really shouldn't use it as the daily driver. So then you just take the hinges back off the door, then you decide that you're just gonna put the old iron hinges back on. Then you realize that your iron hinges is rusted, so you pull the door back off, take the hinges off, put on some nice stainless steel hinges, and then your hinges look better than the door itself. So you take the door off, you throw the door away, you get a new door, and then you just hang it anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh gosh, that's funny. Yeah.
So speaking of Gentoo, which is a distribution, we have next week our distribution exploration, and so it's time to kind of maybe have a chat about what we might like to try out for next week. I'm not going to say Gentoo because we don't have enough time to compile it. That wouldn't make sense. We'd have to plan that out like a couple months in advance. But there are a couple of other ideas. There were some interesting distributions that Neil brought up today, like Magia, Open Mandriva. Also, the Linux user space folks just released a podcast where they talked about Endless OS. So that's another interesting one we could talk about or explore. So those are some ideas. If anybody else has
I've got an idea.
What is your idea?
Has this group done Vanilla OS yet? I've been gone for a few weeks, so I was just wondering.
Actually, I don't see one.
No,
on
we
the list.
haven't.
Yeah, that should probably be added to the list because that is actually a really interesting distribution.
How spicy do you want to go? Because I got a spicy one for you.
You are free to throw whatever spice you like. It can be Cayenne, Bedrock Linux. Is that like a Minecraft thing?
No, Bedrock Linux is a distribution where you literally download a shell script and you run the command sudo bedrock --hijack, and then you can turn that one distro into any distro you want.
Well,
Yeah,
that sounds interesting.
and
That
the
said,
thing-
disable SE Linux if you want to value your own sanity.
yeah, well, the thing about Bedrock, if you don't do it properly, you will break your computer and have to start from
But
scratch.
you know,
Yeah.
running Debian stable with the Arch AUR, using DNF from Fedora, and then you know, mixing your package managers and doing all your wonderful things that you probably shouldn't be doing for any logical reason, you can do it with Bedrock.
Yeah, you can't.
Another one to try out would be something called Archcraft. That's something that Explorer recommended some time ago.
Yeah,
And
but
then we could also do Silverblue, which I know that has been suggested not only by Adam but by Leviticus.
You could do Kinoite.
Is that
Does Kinoite still have issues installing KDE applications?
How
I
the
was using
why
Kinoite
would
for a
the
while.
a KDE distribution have trouble installing KDE applications? That makes no sense.
I've
Yeah,
had
it doesn't.
issues where, you know, trying to install stuff like the Bismuth plugins on Kinoite just
Well,
didn't,
that's
didn't
because
work.
it's you're plugging into Plasma Shell, and that's a completely separate thing. Like, by default, a lot of those things are locked down, and you need to actually open them back up in order to do that. Like, applications are one thing, shell modifications are quite another.
yeah.
that would also be interesting to do. So what does anything speak to anybody here that we've said, like Jinda? I haven't seen any left or right, or north and south or east and west from anything.
I've done so many distros, it doesn't matter anymore now.
Well, does anybody know what Vanilla OS is? Before Okay.
I think we talked about it being it's one of the immutable OSs, right?
Yes, it is an immutable OS, and it allows you to. It's kind of like Bedrock. It allows you to pull down different packages from different distributions, including the AUR, on an Ubuntu base.
So
they're switching bases, I believe. They're in the process of switching Ubuntu to Debian. So I don't know how that's gonna turn out. Or
they're moving to Debian, and they use DistroBox as their terminal environment, which is how they do the multi-distro thing.
So the only reason I would maybe not want to pursue something like vanilla at this time is I'd like to perhaps have some sort of before we do something like that, have some sort of try these set things.
Yeah.
Because this is what makes it unique. And maybe we need to talk about that throughout the week. Like maybe put vanilla or something like vanilla high on the priority list, but let's come up with a set of parameters for us to how to test it, for us to really appreciate what it has to offer. Something like that. So I that's me personally.
I get that. I was just making sure everybody knew what it was, because it's not. I've mentioned it to several people, and they don't even know what it is yet.
But we've talked about it here. What's that?
Endless OS sounds really interesting. I pulled it up, and that looks pretty cool. I'll see what else. You might have heard of Chimera OS. That's supposed to be good for gaming.
Chimera.
When I was checking. Yeah, Chimera, and it's interesting. It says you can't use it in a virtual machine, which is really annoying. But it's one of those things that's there.
Could go down the rabbit hole of BSD, and we could experiment with Hello System.
Wow.
Which is built off of FreeBSD.
Won't
work on my hardware, but it works somewhere.
I want to be sure we can choose something that will actually run for everybody. That's one of those concerns that I have.
Yeah. Then
there's one way or another, I'm gonna have to do this in a virtual machine, because not too many projects actually support driver support for Arc GPUs like what I have.
Is that the new Intel?
Yeah, the Intel Arc GPU.
Yeah. Nice.
Man, wouldn't that just use the open source Intel?
It would. However, it has to have at least a 6.0 kernel to be able to get basic display output, and most systems won't even give you a bootable environment. Fedora 37, for example, will not boot unless you force load the driver for it through Grub.
Wait, force load what through what?
Force load the i9-15 driver.
Oh, because Intel marked it as because Intel did a thing and made it so that they wouldn't load by default upstream. I
Yep.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
They really need to stop doing stuff to break their own hardware.
Yeah.
So OpenSUSE is running
They-
kernel 6.2, so you can go ahead and use that one.
Ubuntu is now too. I think.
Fedora's on that as well. The rebase just landed.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rebase did just land.
Because Ubuntu just pushed that. I believe they're about to push that to the LTS as well.
6.1 is the LTS.
Well, I said they're about to push the 6.2, I believe.
Yeah, they
For
might.
the hardware enablement kernel? No way. Because, like, 6.2 won't land until it releases into an STS distribution release,
Yeah.
which
Well, maybe I
next
might have
STS
something wrong,
the
but
next
yeah.
STS is Lunar, which is
Mhm.
2304.
Yeah.
And at 2304, if I count my days and calendars correctly, is
Yeah.
still a month away.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm sure that after Lunar goes out, then we will see in June-ish
Hmm.
that the hardware enablement kernel will be updated to match whatever Lunar ships, which I think will be 6.2.
Maybe I might be ahead of the game. I might be thinking that, and I was just. But yeah.
All right, so I guess I heard some interest in Endless,
Hmm.
and so far, and then what was he, Navoyu? You think you kicked out a bunch of like weird things, and I appreciate your weird things. I think they're great, but I maybe want to hold off on some of those
Hey, it's fine.
weird.
Yeah.
If
This is
if
just
you
a
ever
being a
want me,
troll.
if you ever want me to spin the wheel, I could just write down like the distros that we have, and then I'll get a number from random.org, and then that will be our chosen distro, whatever number we get. So we just list them, let's say 1 through 5, and just tell random.org, give me a number through 1 through 5, and then we'll tell us what distro to do.
All right, so me personally, I like the idea of doing something Arch related, doing Endless OS, and maybe doing either like an Open Mandriva or Magia, whichever Neil thinks is probably a better one to try.
The more fun one would be Open Mandriva.
Mhm.
All right, so go ahead and put those three in the spinner.
So you said Endless OS. What was the other one?
Do something Arch. So we can
So
do like
some-
the one we can do like Archcraft, the one that
Archcraft, okay.
the one that Explorer recommended, and then Open Mandriva out of those three. Then whichever one it lands on.
So just those 3.
Yeah, just those 3.
Okay. So let me get a number from random.org.
Adam didn't really speak up on the Silver Blue, so we can do it next time.
Okay.
We need like the clicking sound.
I'm about to click it.
All right.
So... And the number is 2.
Which is
Archcraft.
Archcraft. All right.
Archcraft.
So we're gonna try Archcraft next time, or yeah, for next time.
They have a really good looking logo.
Is that with a K or a?
Be a lot cooler
It's
if it was
a-
the K, but it's actually with a C.
It's
So
with a C.
Yeah. And there's a link right in the chat.
I put it in the Zoom
Thank
chat
you.
as well. So Archcraft it is for next week. So we'll stray away from what Linux user space has going on. Maybe we can come back to it. We could probably increase our distro explorations if people wanted that. It wouldn't bother me.
Mhm.
All right. Well, very good.
Yeah.
All right. Just some quick
Yeah, this is-
housekeeping. If you have
Mhm.
any discussion suggestions or distro suggestions, applications that you'd like us to try, please feel free to send those to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or you can tag me or anybody, Aris especially, Jinda, in the Telegram or Discord, whatever, if you have any suggestions. I say Jinda because Jinda. So yeah. Also, if you we have a Linux Saloon calendar, so you can check. If the times shift a little bit, you go to linuxsaloon.com or cubiclenate.com/linuxsaloon, and then that has the calendar. So everything that's coming up is on there. You can add it if you have Google Calendar. You can add it to yours. And if you are upset that I'm using a proprietary service, I'm sorry you're upset. Also, after the show's released, I do a little blathering. So if I get like any additional notes or comments from people after the fact, I like to include that, some other thoughts, additional thoughts as I'm editing through the show. So I release that on cubiclenate.com as well. Well, all right. It is that time for last call. And I see Rick You've been doing some things on Saturday as of late. You do these interviews with people. You wanna share anything about that? It's kind of a roll of the dice, I think. Anytime you do anything with a microphone, a camera, and Zoom, it's maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. It's part of the fun of computers, I think. So George said in a chat earlier that computers aren't as much, or Linux isn't as much fun. Obviously, he hasn't done Zoom in a while, so maybe George should come onto the stream, and then we could do.
I think if you're using the Flatpak of Zoom, it will not save your settings by now. Ever since they updated it like a few weeks ago, I think there's like it tries to update like it was a binary. It doesn't understand it's a Flatpak, so it doesn't work for saving your settings.
Yeah,
so
I noticed that.
every time you start up Zoom on Flatpak, it goes back to default settings.
Yeah, that when I signed into Zoom, that's why my microphone didn't work.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I can hear you now,
Yeah.
like a Sprint
Yeah,
commercial.
switch microphones. I tried to on this nice professional one, but apparently it doesn't work on this one for some reason. So anyway, yeah, I've got interviews with people. I've been interviewing people in the Linux community, basically, recently, and I've interviewed our Cubicle Nate guy here, and also have interviewed Ben Fitzpatrick, and this coming March 8th, I'm ready to interview Prophetic. So probably tune in for that. Who knows what we're going to talk about? Anyway, so, and I've been doing things with Debian testing lately in this past week, and I got that video out, and I did Vanilla OS actually about a couple weeks before. So pretty much I'm just doing distro reviews and things like that.
Well, good deal. So I think, what time do those interviews kick off on Saturdays?
Well, normally I'm trying to shoot for the first Saturday of each month to do one.
Okay.
So I do one a month, but I probably I start about 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 12 Eastern, and on Saturday mornings. So then I got that, and then I have, but I'm moving them around occasionally because I got to do that. So sometimes people's schedules don't work out with mine, and so I got to adjust to it, and we'll work that out as we go. But yeah, Steve's on tap to do one eventually when he finds some time to be free or something. And
You might have to wait till he's retired.
yeah, might. But yeah, it might be later this year when he retires.
Yeah. Well, good deal.
So anyway, I'm hoping those will be informative for people who want to catch up on what everybody else is doing and thinking and saying and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, good deal. Well, thank you very much for sharing. And speaking of Steve, he has this coffee clash most Sunday mornings. He's having one tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got the notification at 8 a.m. Central or 9 a.m. Eastern. I guess that would be 7 Mountain?
Yeah.
Pacific? Something like that?
Mhm.
So check that out.
Yeah,
It's kind of
7 o'clock.
Yeah, check that out. It's a low key chat that Steve does, and I enjoy them.
Yeah.
Mark, you have the Atlanta Linux Enthusiast Group, and they meet every Sunday.
Every Sunday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Again, it is it's a user group, and there's no set agenda. You can get help. We do meet online, and you can find out more at ale.org. But yeah, we get together. We talk about Linux, open source. We try to stay on topic. If you have a question or need some help with Linux, we'll walk you through the commands and try to help you. And again, you do kind of have to manage your topic, make sure you get the help you want. But yeah, anyone's welcome to join. While we are Atlanta group in the US, since we've gone online for COVID, hey, everyone's welcome. So join us sometime. And thanks, Nate.
Excellent. I think last week there's a lot of talk about 3D printers. which was a lot of fun.
There was, yeah.
Rick, you have your hand
We
up?
didn't talk so much about software, but just in general, 3D printers, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Rick is high-fiving me right now or...
Yeah, I have my hand up because I noticed that they said in the Aris said in the anyway, I didn't mention what my channel was. So it's a not a Linux guru guy.
Okay.
I always have trouble saying guru for some reason.
That's all right. Yep, not a Linux guru guy.
Yeah.
Excellent. On Linux User Space, the next episode is a topic-based show. One topic is the season in review. If there's something that someone wants to cover, let them know. Send them an email, a nastygram, a chat message, something to either Dan or Leo. Their last episode that just released was on Endless OS, and the next distro that they're going to try will be Raspberry Pi OS. So you can check that out. I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud, and what we talked about was when is it time to say goodbye to old hardware? I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I do things there. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. There's shows like Destination Linux, The Studio Show, GameSphere, and more. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being part of the conversation in both the Zoom meetings and the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Bye.
Thank goodness.
I do want to welcome. Oh, sorry. Go
Sorry
ahead,
about that.
Swift. So
what device is that?
I put a link in the Zoom chat
Oh,
as
okay,
well as
okay.
the YouTube chat. So I got both
I didn't
bases
see
covered.
it. Sorry.
You're a little bit on the quiet side. I don't know if you can.
This is about as loud as I can probably get, unfortunately, because this microphone, my mixer does not have enough gain to actually provide this microphone, so I really can't make myself.
there you go.
You sound good now. I think it was Zoom. Zoom is probably throttling your. Or not throttling,
Oh,
but like,
probably was. I am running a heater right here, so that's probably what it is.
it could be.
Well, yeah,
turn that
to
off.
fix that, you might want to just go and uncheck that box underneath your microphone setting that says automatically adjust volume.
Yeah.
I always suggest everyone does that.
Let's see. This is like the first time I've used Zoom in a very long time.
Well,
It's in your
welcome.
settings. Yeah.
Yep, there we go. Okay.
It's just as bad as you remember.
It is just as bad as I remember. This is why
Yeah.
I'm
We got
freaking
update today.
Yeah. Let me before we make this.
I can't hear you. You're something's muted on your end. You're not muted in Zoom. I can see that.
No,
Still can't hear you.
we
Yeah.
still can't hear you. But you're not muted in Zoom.
Well, now you're muted in Zoom.
Is it a hardware mute?
The next episode